Albums are full of musicianship. Not all albums. In my own music, I think I relate myself to the Bowie level of composer, who can technically play guitar, but shouldn't. A bit more piano, but the songs are in my head and it's up to me to employ the best musicians to realize it. The difference is, I don't know people, I can't commission any external talent, so I just make do with this clumsy body. For a while before reaching permanent success, David Bowie toyed with specifically being a songwriter. Not like he was for hire, but noticing that was his main skill and not yet having performer ambitions. And I find that resonates. Through his total career, it's observable that he was less into performing than comparable auteurs, though clearly he dug it enough. He stumbled into performing by default and ascended from there. I write songs and then I need to use myself to express them. I wouldn't exactly aspire to write for others outside of something like musicals, character songs. I find the integrity of pop music often correlates with its composer being its performer. For instruments, I used to think I'm good at bass, which is what you get when you realize you're no good at guitar and want something with a much larger margin of error. Maybe I stood a chance of being in a band as a bassist with overdrive and bass riffs. It hurts too much to play now, and I'm best off just on piano. But also I don't aspire to be in a band to perform to people who go to places. It sounds boring. I think tours and programmatic performances sound grueling. I think the musicians who achieve an audience uncover a new way to enjoy it. Not just the grind, but the glory. It'd have to be worth it, considering it's not a well-paying job and it asks for a lot from you. One thing I envy from the band format, though, is composition. I feel I can't jam by myself, I can't necessarily write riff rock the way a band might, where every layer has someone else's creativity and or competence, and there's a collective energy propelling the idea. Without that, it's up to separate me's to lay down the details, and I can't rely on me to come up with ideas beyond what I would come up with. I had slight experience of band composition when I was a teenager, and it's obviously satisfying how this stuff comes together. Form a band, not you. You. No need to perform, just try jamming. What I write is obviously limited to my physical talents unless I lay it out on some virtual sequenced instrument. It doesn't feel that much of a limit in practice, really. I can just keep doing takes. I've been really blocked regarding recording ideas for the last few years. Yeah, way too long. But when I get to it, it'll test the limits of my creativity rather than dexterity. It'll just take perseverance. I can just keep doing takes. It's possible my creativity is limited by my dexterity, though. And if I'm really getting less dexterous, at least I'm getting more sinister. All choppy electro beat stuff is something I've not managed to focus on and will either have to get a collaboration sorted or actually learn something if I want to make it. I've done a lot of trickery in the edit to assemble a guitar track from many takes. As cack-handed as I am at guitar though, piano seems harder in this regard. To get a perfect take where every note, like 6 fingers at a time, is played at the exact right time and velocity and sustain, but in my instinctive style where it's not exact sheet music notes. Kinda consistent but not yet expressible as a formula. And to get a recording that doesn't glitch or distort. Lead guitarists impress me with their fingers moving quickly and precisely in ways I'll never master, or with enough skill to cover the imprecision. But the one that nearly always amazes me, because it's the skill I'm furthest from, is drumming. Such a full-body instrument, such a compendium of visceral coordination. As the fundament beneath pitched instruments, most drummers I recognize it as a thorough mastery of something worthwhile that I'll never get anywhere near to, like seeing magic or someone capable of love. I've only had snatches of chances to try drums and never in a private enough environment to be secure about it. I feel I can sustain a rhythm but lack the limb mastery for such a physical instrument, the core strength, stamina, and probably timekeeping, if my accelerando performances are anything to go by. Really, the main barrier of entry to learning drums is having somewhere private and soundproof to practice, or those electronic sets where you can still hear the impact anyway. The term rhythm section is used with such confidence to refer to both a rhythm instrument and a pitched instrument. I get its trad etymology, and arguably the bass line is a kind of grounding in a similar way to the drums, and it might be a rhythmic bass line, but there's a reason rhythm is rhythm. Bass has notes. In my band, the drummer is the rhythm section and the bassist is the bass section, and they're both me. I feel that the culture of music seems to spotlight the vocalist over the instrumentalist, which is only natural from one angle, the front, but ridiculous from many others. They're charismatic and communicating the most intelligible and distinctive portion of the piece. If you count up the time I've spent in this series discussing each instrumentalist and part, vocalists and top lines and lyrics may well eclipse the rest of them put together. Because it's the bit we have the most language for. It's the bit that's language. As unique as any instrumentalist might be, they won't be quite as unmistakable as a voice. The vocalist is generally the front person, the focus of photos and interviews. Presumably the least replaceable member, likely the lyricist. If there's just one credited composer, it's probably them. If anyone mistakes the band for a solo act, it's them. Solo acts even get away with taking the credit for the many people standing behind them. I suppose the ideas of a band and a solo singer each rose separately and halfway converged into the pop industry we now have, where a solo act may have a quite consistent backing band or might recruit anew for each album or era. Vocalists can get away with a lot less musicianship than those around them, some not being musically literate. Sometimes that's the point. Some being very musically literate but not using their hands to demonstrate it. It can be amusing when singers get more credit than everyone behind them despite their instrumentalists both sustaining the hand roll and singing a harmony higher and harder than the lead vocal melody. It's harder to get a backing line right. Working measurably harder for nobody to even know their name. It's part of the nature of pop music, and maybe people who don't aspire to be lead vocalists tend to suit these underappreciated roles. Might appreciate the anonymity and lower need for charismatic extroversion. I hear people refer to a band, then go straight to the singular pronoun to refer to their singer, inherently disregarding those behind them. I disparage those genre tropes, maybe symphonic metal, where only the vocalist appears on the cover and has an ornate red dress while all their instrument dudes are barely visible, shadowed in black. Let every member of your symphonic metal band wear an ornate red dress. Drummers might struggle. There's even those awkward bands whose name is kind of just the singer's name. Read your contract very carefully if you're one of those guys. But even what we call bands now have extra musicians, some with constant every gig service for decades. I guess it's because they're not part of the creative core of the band, but it's an odd status. It'd go, so what do you do to get paid so you can pay to live? I'm in Evil Gazebo. You're not one of the famous Darkwave trio Evil Gazebo. No, but I've been their extra guitar, floor keyboard, shamisen, one-man band costume, and lead vocal overdub for 50 years. And I'm more talented and a lot less of a junkie than the lot of them. Yeah, like I said, not a member. There's so many individually odd musicians who must feel really awkward when put on the spot to demonstrate their talent outside of its context. A deathcore singer going to a family wedding and the grandparents saying, "Sing us a song then." Their thrash guitarist being handed a standard tuning acoustic. Note to self, film this skit. So there's a resultant imposter syndrome inherent to the identity of musicianhood. When your perceived aptitude depends on being presented right with the right equipment, lighting, and bandmates. I hope I'm a protean musician, if not an excellent one. Hit the stand.